Hello everyone, welcome again to this course. In this episode, we are going to try to explore the interface of Adobe Photoshop, particularly the version CC 2017, which I have. So in the previous episode, I explained to you that we could also use versions from CS3 and above. So if you have any of these versions, I think that should be good. So without wasting too much time, let's get to it. So far we have reached the stage where we need to start working on graphic designing applications like Photoshop itself. But before we start, we must learn to know its interface well enough to effectively use its tools and options available to us. So before we dive deep into it, let's try to understand what Photoshop is. So Photoshop is a professional photo editing software that is used to perform from basic to advanced photo editing and manipulations. So in this course, we are going to explore the Adobe Photoshop's interface, or the Adobe Photoshop Windows interface. It is a Windows standard interface, which means it comes with menus, menu bars, and sections, and status bars, and so on. So without hesitating, let's go through and see. Before that, start up your Adobe Photoshop through your Windows Start menu, then look for Photoshop by typing PH or searching PH, and then it will show Photoshop. You just click and it will launch it to this location. So now ignore this. Now that our Photoshop is started, you should have something similar to this, or you have another window in addition on top here asking you to create a new document. That is, if you've never used Photoshop on your machine, so do not worry about it now. You can probably just create any random document or just cancel that window. So right now, what we would do is, as usual, is to reset our interfaces so that we all have a good starting point. We all have the common starting point. So the first thing to do is to reset the workspace. The whole interface, as you see it here, is the workspace. So we have various workspaces on Adobe softwares like Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and you can switch from one workspace to another workspace. For example, I can switch from this actual Essentials workspace to 3D workspace, and you will see that the entire workspace shifts and changes to adapt that particular activity. So if I shift to graphic design and web, it will also shift. So the shifting actually is to bring up and bring closer to me the most useful tools and the most useful panels for the particular activity I'm about to do. So that's one use of the workspaces. But we have the chance to customize the workspaces. So what we are going to do here is to go back to the Essentials workspace, and then I will reset my workspace, because this actual workspace you see here is how I use in my daily activities. So I'll try to reset to the initial position as if I just installed my Adobe Photoshop. I'll go to the workspaces menu or button here, or I can go to Windows menu, look for workspace, and then do what I want. So switch workspaces. So what I'm going to do is to reset it. So I'm going back here, click on the workspaces arrow, then do reset essentials, because this is the workspace I am actually on. So if I was on the 3D, it will be reset 3D. If I was on graphic and web, it will be reset graphic and web. So I'm resetting the essential, and then it is done. The interface shifts and comes to its initial state. You can see so many panels have disappeared because I moved them there to bring them here. So let's go again. Let's try now to go through each one of these parts of this window interface. So the first one we have to look at is the menus bar, which is the bar on top of your window. So the bar starts with the PS icon, which is the Photoshop logo, followed by the files, the file edit, image, layer, type, select, and other menus in the same line. And so under the menus bar, we have the options and properties bar. We'll come back to it right now. So these options and properties bar is there to help and give more information on the tools on the left side here. So based on the tool we use, the properties and more options will be given on that particular tool, or whatever shape or whatever work elements we are using to work with, more options will be given to us inside this options bar. So from there we have the tools bar, which is at the left side. You can click on this to enlarge it, or just go take it back with this double arrow. So you can click on the double pointed arrow to either hide the navigation or bring it back. And most of these sections can be shifted or undocked, docked or undocked. So if I drag here, see, I undock it, and I can still have it flying out, but when I take it back, I can still dock it back. So continuing with the tools are actually the elements. It's the tool set, the pencils and other things you use as an artist to produce your artwork. So we get to the tools bar. The tools bar is actually a set of tools that can be used to produce our artwork. It's a set of tools that can be used to produce our artwork. These tools are the ones who explore the most, because the more we know how to use them, the easier it will be for us to use the software, and the more creative we can be. So once we know the tools and how we can use them, it all depends on us now. It depends on our creativity level. So before we continue exploring the tools, let's look at the panels at the right side here. Those panels are here to accompany the tools, extend the tools, and give us more options. There are also more panels available in Adobe Photoshop, which you can access from the Windows menu. So as you can see it here, so if I click on the path, so you can see it will bring a panel. If I go down there again and look for let's say stars, so it will bring another panel. So if I go inside and look for paragraph, so it will bring the paragraph panel. So you can continue to bring more panels in order to make it easily accessible. So the menus and the menu, these additional panels have been hidden under the Windows menu in order to keep the interface clean and easy to use. So next is the word canvas itself, or the document, which you can see here. So far we have none of them. So we'll quickly look at how to insert it. So, or maybe so far in your machine you already have a white screen here, a white space here. So that's what I'm talking about. So in case you don't have it, this is how you bring it. So you go to the files menu, then you click on the new, or you press Ctrl N shortcut. It will bring the same thing. So the new document window will show up, asking you to choose the dimensions of the new document. These dimensions here are based on the ones I have been creating while I'm using the software. So if you've never used the software on your machine, you might not get anything here. So do not be scared. This simply means you haven't created anything before for it to use as a sample. So the next thing you can do is to try to go to other tabs. So you can choose photo, print, art and illustration, web and mobile, and film and video. So all these are various formats you can use. So you can start with the print format, simply like this, and take any size. So I'll keep the letter. Then the sizes are actually editable, so you can edit the sizes here. For now, they are in inches. You can change them into pixels, centimeters, millimeters, points, and so on. So we'll keep it default. You can also change the orientation of the document, the paper. So make it either the orientation into landscape or portrait. So and so on. We'll keep it by default here and everything. The color mode, I'm keeping it RGB by default, and keep all this by default as it is. If you don't have white here, try to see if you can get it either white, black, okay, or you set a different background. But I would like to keep it by default here. No more, we don't go in the advanced. So after choosing whatever dimension you like from whatever document format type, just click on the button create. Then it will bring you this paper. So this looks like the paper we use, the A4 paper we use to create our to do our drawings. So this is now the workspace we are going to use, the area we are going to work. So we could not work here, it won't do anything, this gray area. So you need to work in here. So now to continue, we'll explore more of these tools to see how it works. So the first tools we will have here is the selection and manipulation tools section. So these tools are here, these 4 tools. They help us to select and manipulate the elements. So as I said earlier in the definition of Photoshop, Photoshop is used to manipulate and edit photos and also create vectors. So we could, if we had an item like a picture, using a move tool would allow us to move it, or whatever shape we had, the move tool would allow us to move it. So that's why it is called the move tool. So one thing you could also notice is, in case you forget these names, just pass mouse over on them and wait for some few microseconds, it will pop up the name. So you can see move tool and the shortcut letter, which is the V. So we have the selection and the manipulation tools that are here. These tools allow us to select and manipulate. So I'll probably try to open an image for us to see how it will go. So let me find an image. I'll go to pictures and find an image that I will drag inside. Do not worry, we'll come back to this these principles on how to open images and manipulate images. So I'll just open this image and drop it inside. So we have an image in our canvas. So if I click on the move tool, it means I've activated the move tool. I'm about to use the move tool. You can see that it will allow me to move the image wherever I want, right? So under the move tool, we have the airboard tool, which allows us to create sections or crop the image. So we'll see that later. So that's what the move tool is used for, to help you move the tools. Then we have the selection tool, which is the rectangular marquee tool. And it's not only the rectangular, it actually comes in 4 different sets. So we have the rectangle, the elliptical marquee tool, the single row marquee tool, and then single column marquee tool. So what these tools help us to do is to select a particular portion of an image. So for example, if I want to select this man's head right now, the head is round. The head is round. So right here, if I use the rectangular marquee tool and do this, I'll get a rectangle around it. But instead, I would prefer to go with an elliptical marquee tool, and that will give me a circle a little bit close to what a head might look like. So this will look a little bit better to select an area that is a circle. So that's why we have different marquee tools to help us select areas. So by selecting an area like this, it allows us to manipulate that area without affecting the other parts of the image. Alright, so an example could be, for example, if I use this brush and decide to paint. A second, I need to find my layers, add up a new layer, then reduce the size of this brush, choose any color here and paint. So you can see as I paint, it won't go beyond that selection I made. So this is one advantage of these selections. Of course, we'll come back to it and see more how to use them. Now the next selection tool we could see is the polygonal lasso tool, or generally known as the lasso tool. It's also a selection tool, but it gives us more flexibility. So if you take the lasso tool, you have the chance to click step by step. The lasso tool is used by professionals to cut pictures like this. So for example, if we wanted to remove this man out of this picture, we could just go through step by step, follow the path around the image, to make sure we get the surroundings of the image, so that we get a nice cutout of the image. So the lasso tool can be useful to those things. So if I just close it here, so I get a portion of the image. So whatever you do of it, so now you can decide to do whatever you want of the image. So I selected a different layer. So we'll come back to how to use the lasso tool properly. So, and it also comes in different forms. So the polygonal lasso tool, the basic lasso tool, which is more flexible again, so because you can draw with it. So you have a shape like this, you just draw, instead of you to click once and then get the shape. Here you just draw, you continue, and then you get it. You see, and I can do whatever I want with that portion I selected. So we have the other one, which is magnetic. That one will follow. So you see, it actually works on its own. It's like it's detecting the pixels with the same colors and try to follow them and highlight it. So I just have to hold the mouse down and then continue to drag, and it tries to detect the edges by itself automatically. This is a good thing. It can be easy, especially if the colors of the image are harmonious. So after the lasso tools, we have the quick selection tool here. This one allows us to select areas just like the magnetic lasso tool, but this time around in a more larger space. So it finds pixels of the same color and then highlights them. And as I select this tool, you can see that 8 options show up here. So actually I'm using the additional option, which I increases the selection. So you could see that the selection goes around on top of the mountains, on top of the man's head. So I could decide to increase it down. So you can see it could get on it, but maybe if I actually, after the first selection, it happened this way, I would decide to push it up so that it stops right on top of the mountain. Then I can use the minus, the subtraction from selection, and then it will actually reduce it up. It is very useful when you have so many pictures to crop. These tools can help you instead of you to be going step by step, one step at a time with the previous lasso tools. This quick selection tool can be useful. It will help you select one large area instantly, and then you can just adjust it quickly and then deal with your selection. So we'll see actually later on how these selections can be used. Once you select, what do you use it for? Why do we even select in the first place? Alright, so after the quick selection tool, we also have the magic selection tool. So the magic wand, it actually helps us to select pixels of the same color in one area. So let's say this white area of the picture, I would like to remove it. It might look like it's pure white, but it's not pure white. So I could decide to remove it. So I'll just click on it like this. Once I click on that area, it will select all the pixels that are white around. So you can see that white area has been selected instantly. So I just need to rasterize this image. We'll understand that principle very soon. So you can see I've removed the background, it went a bit whiter. So that's one good use of this magic wand selection tool. So after the selection tools, these main 4 tools, we have the painting and then retouching tools. So the painting and retouching tools allow us, 1, to paint, of course, and then 2, to do retouching of our pictures and our images. So the first one is the crop tool here. So the crop tool allows you to reduce the image. So mainly a customer can tell you, I would like you to crop my image. So it reduces the image sizes. For example, in our case, you can see that my image has some white space down and then some white space at the top. I could decide to get rid of this white space down here by dragging the crop. You can see at the moment I selected the crop tool, it creates some edges around, some half squares, which allow us to drag. So we have one handle up here and one handle down here, left and right as well, and also in the corners. So I could take the down one and push it up and then enter. So you see I get my picture right. I could still do it with the crop tool and drag the one up and get it down there to keep it. So you see, I could reduce my picture, or it might be just this picture the client just sent you, or you yourself you are using and you would like to reduce the picture. So all you have to do is also get rid of some portions of the picture proportionally, or any angle you want, and you get your picture cropped. So from a bigger picture, you come up with a smaller size of picture, which is cropped. So cropping is actually removing one part or parts of an image without actually transforming the image proportions. So I will go back down there, and that's one thing we could see in terms of Adobe Photoshop panels. There's one particular panel that is very useful, which is the history panel, and it's usually here. So it actually keeps the history of all the movements you are making. That allows you to go back one movement behind or forward. So all these movements are made from the beginning. You can see all of them here. Every single tool I used and where I used it has been here. So you could see where I used the quick selection tool. So after the quick selection tool, I used this selection and the magic one. So I would like to go back to the magic one state. Yeah, so you see, I come back to the image. In case you made mistakes, you could just use this panel. You go back to wherever things were right and continue from there. It's a very useful panel. Right, so after the crop tool, which we have in many types, so we will see them later on. So the whole idea is the same. Right, so we go back to the next tool, which is the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool allows us to pick colors and also allows us to paint areas with specific colors. So if I use this eyedropper, you can see if you are looking at this area, which is the color control section, you can see that it allows me to pick two main colors. So basically it gives me two colors, the background color and then the foreground color. It's useful to memorize the colors. So for example, this picture, let's assume this picture was sent to us for a festival, to design a festival banner, and we might be wondering which colors to use. And it is obvious, so we can use the colors using these pictures to start our design. So I can pick these colors, and here I have the color code already. So this is useful in picking colors. And then we have the 3D, the color sampler, for example. So the color sampler, for example, when I click, you can see there's an info panel that shows up here. So what it does is, while I am passing my mouse, I am moving my mouse over the picture, it samples colors. So when I click, it will save that color and then give me the various shades of the color, which I could use as my palette later on. So it actually picks up colors on a picture and it gives you the details of the colors, the shades, the dosage, if you are using CMYK and so on. So it is really good in finding colors and keeping colors. So we have more of them. We could also discover them throughout exercise and other things. So the next tool is the spot healing. The spot healing tool is really useful in cleaning pictures and images that you will see later on. Sometimes an artist might give you their picture, or you might be called to work on a banner of an artist or a concert or something, an event that involves human faces, and mostly it is important to get it smooth. It is important to get it smooth. So these tools are used to smoothing images and so on. So you can see, yes, this is automated. So what the tool will do is it will pick up some clean areas in the picture and try to copy it on the surface where I'm dragging the tool. So you can reduce the size. Obviously, once I choose the tool, all the options here belong to that particular tool. When I change the tool, you can see it happens like that. So once you choose the spot healing brush, you can tweak it. You can decide the size, the hardness, the softness, and so on. So if I do this again, you can see that area seems to be cleaned a bit. It's getting it a bit lighter. You can see. Yes, there are professional ways and professionals can really use this very well to make it a wonderful thing. So you have different versions and so on. And also I would like to align that while you are using it, you can choose how it applies to the image, then multiply, screen, darken and lighten the other things. So we'll come back to it as well and see how to use them throughout our project. So we have healing brush tool as well, the patch tool, and then context aware. That is useful when you want to remove some portion of an image without letting people know that a part of the image is gone. Right, so after that, still in the painting and retouching tools, we have the brush tool, which is our friendly brush, which helps us to do the painting and drawing. So you can see that I can paint this area the way I want it. So maybe make some cloud, something like that, a baby cloud, and paint it as you wish. So the paintbrush is useful in coloring part of your image, or also sometimes to create masks. So it's useful. And behind the brush tool, we have the pencil tool, which can be used to do our drawing, right? Of course, once you choose the pencil, you can see the size. The default size there is really huge. That's why you see the line is huge. So you can affect all these properties of the pencil. You can even choose how it will look like by choosing different brush. So you can see it is useful when you are doing an advertisement for a painting company. Maybe they like to have these things. So things can be useful. These things can be useful. Then we can also look at the mixture brush. Which is really useful when you don't want to have straight lines. You can see this is really useful for shading. It's really useful for shading, right? So we continue in this category. We have the stamp tool, okay, the clone stamp. What this does is, let me show a little bit. So you actually use it to stamp portion of an image, or to copy a portion of an image. So for example, use this head and then I made this copy here. So you can see I can still copy this whole man here. You see? Copy this whole man here. It is really good, especially when you are working with flowers. So now I have two people of the same design. So you can see I even got rid of the other guy down there, trying to copy this same person. So you see, I'll copy the same scene twice. So the stamp is really useful, and you can do much more with it. So the pattern stamp as well is useful for that. So you can see, depending on the pattern I choose, so you can choose a pattern here. Let me choose something. You might not have these patterns because I have them installed just by default. So you can see I'm printing these patterns wherever I want. It is really good in creating special effects. So I'll get rid of that. Then we have the H3 brush. Then we have the H3 brush too, and then we have the erasers and so on. So here, the erasers, the background eraser to magic eraser. So eraser, as it sounds, it helps us to erase. Adobe Photoshop is a really good tool that can be used for drawing. So it has all the good tools in making drawing wonderful. So after that, we have the gradient tool. The gradient tool is used to create gradient areas. You can see right now, I just did it based on the setup here in the properties bar. So you can also play with this area. Then we have the paint bucket tool, which is like you pouring paint actually. So it pours the paint. It is also good in painting. It makes it easy to paint large painting, large drawings. So you can take large spaces and then pour the paint. Right. Then we have the blur tool. The blur tool allows us to blur areas of the picture. So sometimes you can see pictures where the background is blurred, like the light behind an image is blurred to emphasize on the foreground. You can do that, so you can see it's getting blurred behind there. This allows us to bring the focal point on the front images. So we can decide to blur all these guys behind and leave this old man kneeling down and the other people. So to show that this is a background scene. So it is useful in many other things. It can also be used to sharpen a picture to make it look smooth. So we have the sharpen tool as well for here. So after that, we have the dodge tool. The dodge tool, you can see it also does some cleaning. So you can see the cleaning of the dodge tool is a bit lighter. It's like increasing the lightening on the image. It's like whitening it. So it can be used in many other formats as well to bring beauty in your picture. So after this area of painting and then retouching tools, we have the type, the path, and then the shape tools. So here we can have the pen tool as well. So the pen tool is useful in drawing custom shapes. So it allows us to make custom shapes like this, custom parts. So you can see here, while I am taking that tool, it's telling me that I'm going to draw a path, not a shape actually. So sometimes people do it when they are done and they are confused. Why is it that I'm not getting anything? Actually, what you are drawing is a path, not a shape, right? So if you want a shape, you have to specify that you want a shape here. So now, if I do, no, I didn't close it. So let me return back. So if I want a shape, I could do something like this, the stroke. I don't want the stroke. So I make this, I do this, I do this, I do this. Then I close the shape. So here I get a shape, right? And I can manipulate that shape as I wish with the anchor points. So you see, almost the same capability we had with Adobe Illustrator. So we can do the same things here as well. So this is useful in creating custom shapes and custom paths, right? So after the pen tool, like I said in Adobe Illustrator, it is something we will learn a lot because of the custom shapes it gives. Then after the pen tool, we have the type tool. The type tool allows us to include text. So one good thing we could do with the type tool and then the pen tool is to make a path. For example, I will shift it back to path, then do this and do this. Then once I have the path, I will take the text tool and then target that path and write on that path. So like I can say lance course. Is it writing? Yes, I think I got it. So let me start the text quickly so that we can look, you see it because it has the same color as the background. Let me check the layers. Lance course. Okay, let me put it on top of the part, the other area. So we have lance course, and you can see lance course is trying to follow that same path I used. So I will reduce the size a bit so that it will actually look smooth. So lancecourse.com is fine. So you can see. So while we are using the type tool, we could also play with the paths offered by the pen tool to create custom styling of text and wonderful things we could do. So we'll come back to them and explore more possibilities in how to play with these tools and also discover their use properly. So in this same category, we have the direct selection tool. The direct selection tool usually works some kind of like the pen tool and then the convert point tools. So it allows you to manipulate the shapes, especially their paths. So if you take this and we take this shape, and so this is the shape, I think. You know, this direct selection tool. So we click on the shape, and you can see that we have access to the anchor points, and we can tweak them as well. So you see, so it works almost the same as that pen tool, tools there. So we can tweak the shape as we wish. So here we have the shape tool, obviously to create various types of shapes as we see here. They suggest these basic shapes, but under it you have the custom shapes, which will give you more shapes. So they are here. So you can see more shapes you could use to create your own shapes, or to create custom shapes actually. So for example, let me take this donut and then make a donut here, and here we go. So I can change the filling, and I get a white donut. I can place it here to make it look fun, right? So, and you can use many shapes. You can use any shape you like. Then under that, we have the utility tools that we use mostly, which is the hand tool here, which allows you to move the document without touching any of the elements of your composition. So you can shift the document like this easily. And you have the lens here, the zoom tool. You can see when I click on the zoom tool, it gives me either I want to zoom in or out. So based on the one you activate when you click, that's what will happen. So if I take the plus, it will take it up, and that's the use of it. So under it, we have the colors here, the colors control tool, which allows us to handle the foreground and background. We'll come to that topic, foreground and background, so you can see foreground and background. So images are all made with foreground and background colors. And these colors control also can help us to record colors, like I said, with the color picker. So it can help us to keep some colors there temporarily and then come back and use them later on. Then we have the mode control here, which is it allows us to go into two different modes with Adobe Photoshop: edit in standard mode, or go back to the edit in quick mask mode. So if you go in quick mask mode, it's like you are not actually working directly on your image, but you are working on a surface that is on the image. So it gives you some proxy space to work on. And then we have the Windows control tool, which allows us to control the window. So basically, it's a fun part. You can actually decide to display your Photoshop in full screen or not, or standard screen. So if you do full screen, so you can see Adobe will arrange itself somehow. And if I change it again, yes, I'm coming back. I'm going to full screen, so that's fully full screen. So I can leave the full screen by pressing the escape key on my keyboard, and it will bring back to the normal position of the window. So we also have an extension of this toolbar here, which allows us to edit the toolbar. So when you open that, you can see that the tools are here, all organized with their shortcuts and so on. Here you can decide to also reorganize them and retouch them, or even set up your own way of organizing the tools bar. So that is it with your introduction with the interface of Adobe Photoshop. See you in the next video.